A reading from the letter of St. Paul to the Philippians. Brothers and sisters, have no anxiety at all, but in everything, by prayer and petition, with thanksgiving, make your requests known to God. Then the peace of God that surpasses all understanding will guard your hearts and minds in Christ Jesus. Finally, brothers and sisters, whatever is true, whatever is honorable, whatever is just, whatever is pure, whatever is lovely, whatever is glorious, if there is any excellence, and if there is anything worthy of praise, think about these things. Keep on doing what you have learned and received and heard and seen in me. Then the God of peace will be with you. The word of the Lord.
Thanks be to God.
So I'll remember forever the first time I ever walked into the chapel in the novitiate in Denver. I opened the door and I saw, that's a really nice crucifix sitting in front over there. That tabernacle is made of gold, not that ornate, but that's okay. You know, these choir benches are made out of pine. Pine is a nice wood. But then there were the brick walls. The brick walls that, when I first got there, I would describe to my mom as different shades of brown. But after a couple months, you learn different shades of brown in their names, like burnt ember, beige, chestnut, beaver, and drab, but especially drab. So, along with learning all these names, about 7 months into staring at these same brick walls every single day in prayer, I remember sitting there trying to pray, but staring at that wall and saying, "Wall, why are you so ugly?" And in the end of the day, I was like, why am I allowing this ugly wall to distract me in prayer? And in Denver, that was a little more of a visual distraction. Here in the studio, I asked different questions, like, chapel floor, why is it that when I walk on you, it feels like I'm walking through a minefield of creakiness? Or, choir stall, why is it that no matter how much I try to close you quietly, sometimes my fingers slip and all of a sudden, and then everyone's distracted in prayer. So, all these are lighthearted examples. But at the end of the day, brothers and sisters, these distractions point towards something else. And you have to ask yourselves, how often do we live in these small, tiny dissatisfactions? We ask ourselves, why is there always that one person in our life where every single time they open their mouth or they do something, they just drive us up a wall? Or when things are going hard for us, we ask ourselves, why don't things go the way I want them to go? Or we ask ourselves, if only I can be better at study, if only I can be better at praying, if only I can be better at being me. But in every single one of these little struggles, I ask you, where do we fix our eyes when we look at our lives? Do we put our gaze on all things in reference to what makes us happy? Or do we see all creation as we should, pointing towards something far greater? And I think in this reading today from the Philippians, Paul exhorts us to think about that second question. He exhorts us to look on the world and recognize that whatever is true, whatever is honorable, whatever is just, whatever is pure, whatever is lovely and gracious, if there's any excellence, and if anything is worthy of praise, that we think about those things. Because they're often right in front of us, and we miss them so often. And often we turn this blind eye towards these things, instead of allowing the wonder of God expressed through these little human experiences to penetrate our hearts. So that all of a sudden, I can recognize the truth in that bone-dry book that puts me to sleep when I read it. Because I recognize that that book helps me to uncover knowledge I've yet to discover. that there's honor inside our pursuit of happiness and virtue, even if we slip up so bad that we're back to square one. That when we look at that person who drives us up a wall, that we can recognize that that person has excellence within them, that there's something worthy of praise, and that we can recognize the loveliness even in the ugliest of brick walls, because that brick wall is accomplishing its goal. That as I stare upon that brick wall, I realize it's trying to distract me away from itself, but towards something far more beautiful. And especially in the context of that particular brick wall in the novitiate. As I stared at its ugliness, I realized I'm in prayer. And what this wall is telling me is to focus on something far greater, the most beautiful thing, the God, creator of all beauty, and the creator of all things that are so beautiful but point us towards a greater beauty. But most importantly, brothers and sisters, we're called to recognize the excellence within ourselves, because God created each and every one of us so that we can answer that invitation to fix our eyes upon Him, so that we may live in His peace that surpasses all understanding, that will guard our hearts and our minds in Christ Jesus.